The big news here, right, is the executive order for the strategic um, Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile, which is nicely separated. I thought that was quite interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, have you guys have probably looked at David Sacks's tweet initially, and then there's actually a White House press of the exact details. So the reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin owned by the federal government. So this is the seized Bitcoin, basically, from the Silk Road and Bitfinex. I actually also saw within there, I think within this tweet, or maybe a another tweet by David Sacks, that um, he did mention that the Bitcoin that is supposed to go back to victims of like the Bitfinex will go back there. So it's not the
Oh, he
total
did.
200,000 that people are saying that they have unaudited 200,000. So to me, it sounds like it's more likely going to be like 100, like 80 to 120,000 that initially goes into the reserve. That's what it sounds like to
Mm,
me.
yeah, that makes sense. I think that regardless, I think they're going to accumulate more. If they go with what Senator Lummis was saying, I think they want 1 million in total or more. So if that works out, it goes crazy.
Oh yeah, it goes bonkers. I think the wording that I found very interesting with this reserve is that if there's an ability to not affect the taxpayers to accumulate more Bitcoin, then they'll seek those options out. And we understand who's in charge of that, which is the Treasury Secretary and the Secretary of Commerce, who are both Bitcoiners, like full
Yes.
on Bitcoiners. So they're going to look at other assets they have, which they could literally swap and like sell and buy Bitcoin, and think that's a better investment, which it entirely is. So there's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of terrible takes on this. There's some decent takes out there too. There's a lot of people saying like, oh, they're not buying Bitcoin immediately on an executive order, and so they're not going to. And it's like, I don't know. That wording sounds like they're going to in the future.
I think it's important to consider that they're just not selling their Bitcoin, right? There was always that shadow above people who wanted to buy Bitcoin. They were thinking, no, we're not going to buy. We're going to buy when the U.S. government sells all its Bitcoin and the price comes lower. But that's not going to happen anymore, and I think that's bullish on its own.
I think so too. It's like literally those coins have been taken out of circulation. Yeah, administrations change. It's an executive order, so it's not written into like full on law yet. There's a little bit of nuance there, but I think you're right. Like as of now, those coins have been taken off of the market, and it's like a potential. Those could have been sold at any point. Like prior to Trump getting in, there was talks about them having to sell them. Like they got approval from some court or something to sell them, and everyone was losing their minds. And it's like that would add a lot of selling pressure to Bitcoin for sure.
Yeah.
Big time. And I think to me, it seems like the perfect timing with everything right now with the Fort Knox stuff with the gold. That would be a very budget neutral way of getting some more Bitcoin without the taxpayer's expense. The other thing that I found interesting is that they have kind of gone out of their way to show the previous administration, they sold the Bitcoin, and they're pretty specific in terms of how much they missed out on with that, which was $17 billion. So
Yeah.
when you're trying to, as Bitcoiners here, obviously we understand what's going on a little bit. But for the average person, when they see this stuff, they're like, why is the government buying Bitcoin with our tax dollars? And so I think that when you can come at them like this and say, well, hey, now we're not spending any of your tax dollars. Everything's going to be done with either selling other things or, saving costs other ways. But also like, this is why we're doing it, because the last people who were here sold it and we lost $17 billion worth of Bitcoin because of that, or of proceeds from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The government also has some ability to mine Bitcoin, I feel like, as well. Like there's state sponsored energy projects, or they have some, connection to some energy projects. Like in Canada, I know a little bit more specifically about that. Like I think the Liberal government like basically funded one of the pipelines, right? Which is, a source of energy, not electricity, but a source of energy, right? So, I mean, I don't know what the Hoover Dam is, if it's connected to the government or something like that, but some hydro projects, I'm sure they have their feet into. And there's a lot of um, excess electricity is stored in those dams and whatever other energy projects that they're involved in. They could throw a Bitcoin miner on there. They could start the hash wars, right? They could start participating as a nation state in Bitcoin mining. I see that as a potential in the future too, which, wouldn't cost taxpayers anything really. Like there's an initial startup cost, but they could offset that. They could offset that by selling something else, or, even like the stuff that Doge is doing, right? That's all taking that's taking that money back from the taxpayers. So then they're kind of like, if they're doing that, then they could see that as like a surplus, and that could even go into Bitcoin. There's a lot
Yeah.
of potential for them to buy Bitcoin.
I think the other thing that was important in David's tweet was that they're going to be having a strategic asset, a digital asset stockpile. What was it? Yeah, a digital asset stockpile, and they're not going to be buying any more. So I think that really kills off a lot of the altcoins.
I think so too. Like, but if you look at, I searched up XRP on Twitter after that was announced, and the delusion. I mean, they're like, there was these tweets of people saying, "Oh, Bitcoin and XRP in a strategic U.S. reserve," and it's like, did you guys didn't read this? Like, I mean, they're so delusional with everything. So of course they're going to be delusional with this as well. Like the delusion is a part of being a part of that community, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, it's very clear. Like there's literally going to be like active management with the digital asset stockpile, and they're going to sell when they see fit, and they're not able to buy back with the way that it's written now. And then what do they do with the proceeds from that? That's a surplus as well, right? That costs the taxpayer nothing.
I think what some of the Ripple guys think is that, the escrow that Ripple has set aside, they think that that's going into the strategic reserve. They think that Ripple is going to give it away for free.
What?
It's so crazy. I actually saw a few tweets on that. So that I thought that was absolutely insane.
That's wild.
Do you guys have any theories of why, like Trump not tweeted, but posted about XRP, Cardano, and what was the other one? Ethereum, I think. Do you guys have any theories in terms of like why? And also a few of those guys are going to be at the White House tonight for the crypto summit. It seems pretty clear that they're not going to be adding any of these assets to the stockpile. What's your guys' theories on that?
I think it was a bone he had to throw to people that funded his presidency, and it pumped their bags. Like I think ADA or Cardano or whatever went up like 30% on that tweet, because it's like so obvious how worthless it is, and so it's only driven by hype. So yeah, I think it was just a bone thrown to these. It's like a little pump given, and same with the stockpile, right? It's like, we acknowledge you guys. You're not the same as Bitcoin, but we have considered you because you've given us so much money.
Somebody said make some of his allies a quick buck. Keep in mind that Trump is also running his own crypto fund.
Yeah, Liberty Financial.
You don't know if they're buying all these coins and then dumping them as soon as they jump, right? I mean, they could easily manipulate the system in that way.
Yeah, so we covered a lot of the strategic reserve there. I wanted to ask you guys a question, wanted to get your opinions on it about it. Do you think that this is the starting gun for game theory for nation state adoption?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think the US, because the US has the biggest economy, it's just going to make it less weird for other countries to adopt. What are your thoughts on that? I think they're just putting the first step forward, and it's going to keep going.
Yeah, I think that's true too. I think it'll be maybe a tiptoe situation as well, because I think, this is like, I think this is the starting gun, but people are like not sure still if the race is going on. I think that, if this was passed through Congress, written into law, maybe if there was active buying going on, this will be like, okay, the starting gun already went off and we didn't start running yet. So I think nation states seem to be pretty slow to react to stuff. So, but I do think also on top of that, and maybe beside my point, I think that there are nations that have already started. They just are keeping it quiet because that's advantageous to do so.
I think if you've been in Bitcoin for a little while, kind of the number that's been floating around in terms of like available Bitcoin, we know how many Bitcoin are going to exist. We know how many Bitcoin have been mined already. But the number that's kind of been floating around for the last couple of years to me has been about 2 million Bitcoin, like available on exchanges. I know that a lot of these countries and public companies buy over the counter, but if you just really take a hard look at like objectively how much Bitcoin's available versus how much each of these countries is going to want to accumulate, it's going to go pretty quick. And that's just countries alone. Then you think about the states, then you think about the pension funds, the BlackRocks of the world. Like it doesn't really seem to, I just don't think there's enough Bitcoin. And when people realize that, when other countries realize that, I think absolutely they're going to just do anything that they can at that point to get into this thing. And I just don't think there's enough Bitcoin for everybody. Do you guys think that anybody is going to have more than 500? I know it's a pipe dream of the US to get 1 million Bitcoin per the Lummis bill, but do you guys think anybody's going to actually exceed Micro or Strategy's 500,000 Bitcoin here? And on top of that, do you think that there's any relationship with Strategy and the strategic Bitcoin reserve in the US?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to be honest. I think they're going to I think they're going to run out of cash. I think they're going to run out of sellers who want dollars in exchange for Bitcoin. Who knows how long that'll happen? How long that'll take. Maybe I'm completely wrong here. Maybe there are a lot more people who don't actually understand Bitcoin than I think. But I think eventually they're going to run out. I think people are going to figure out what Bitcoin is before the US can get to 1 million.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of think, I think that they could get to a lot. I think there is a lot of Bitcoin out there at different prices. I think a lot of people are willing to part with their Bitcoin. So I kind of differ in my opinion there from Rajat. But do I think that they're going to outpace Strategy? I'm not sure, because Strategy is actively accumulating already, and it has such a head start with 500,000 coins. So I think as Bitcoin's price goes up, Strategy's ability to acquire Bitcoin actually increases as well. Their strategies, like the premium on Strategy goes up, and then their strategies to accumulate Bitcoin become even more efficient, even with the price goes up. That's why people are always upset about, oh, why didn't Sailor smash buy when the price went down? It's because that's not the way their strategy is able to function. Like the MNAV has gone down too much, right? Because they're a levered play of Bitcoin. So as the price of Bitcoin goes up, they're able to buy more Bitcoin, which is counterintuitive, but it's if the US starts buying Bitcoin, if all these other nation states, I mean, maybe I agree a little bit with Rajat actually when I think about not just the US and Strategy being the big buyers, but then also other nation states. Like if everyone starts buying Bitcoin and starts to realize it, then yeah, maybe they won't be able to get to 1 million, because those coins, we have a max supply, and enough. I mean, nations have so much money, so like they could start running out of sellers. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I have this. Somebody actually mentioned it on the chat. I have this quote where I say Bitcoin will run out at every price, because the people who own Bitcoin, eventually they become longer and longer term holders, right? Let's say you have people who bought at 10 cents, they're willing to sell at $100,000. Maybe some of them are willing to sell if Bitcoin's price goes back down to 70, 60, $50,000. But eventually those people are going to run out, because Bitcoin is finite. The number of Bitcoin that people have is finite. If you don't have Bitcoin, you can't sell it. That it's as simple as that. Like Germany, they brought the price down significantly when they sold at 50K, but how are they going to sell 50,000 Bitcoin again if they don't have 50,000 Bitcoin to begin with?
Yeah, you can't make more of it. You can't counterfeit it. There's only one way to get it. Yeah, this is crazy, guys. Like I think people are understating how big of a deal this is actually.
I couldn't.
And it's
agree
inevitable.
More. Yeah.
And I do think it's a little bit unfortunate in a way, because it seems like it's inevitable. And we all foresaw Bitcoin going to 1 million. It's going to happen. We all know that's going to happen, but this is an accelerant to that. And to me, that's sad to a degree, because it means that my work has become worth a little bit less, and will continue to that'll continue to happen, and it'll happen faster because of things like this, which just means I can acquire less Bitcoin now and into the future, as this will inevitably create number go up.
Yeah, you'll be working for less, but your net worth will go up. So you'll have to spend less to get whatever you need. That's the beauty of this whole thing. Whether you're talking individuals, countries, business owners, Like the nice thing about this is like, as Rajat kind of mentioned, there's like the more time people spend in Bitcoin, the more conviction they have, and the longer they're going to hold on to those Bitcoin. And so pretty much what that means is like the longer you hold on to those Bitcoin, the less of it you're actually going to have to spend when you need to spend it on something. Right. So it's kind of like I call it a win-win in Bitcoin, but it's the absolute truth, because when the price dips, whatever you do for the world, whatever kind of value you add to the world, you're getting more sats for that, which is what you want, the real money. Right. And when the price goes up, your net worth is up, and whatever you need to spend on actually gets cheaper. So there's really no way to lose here in Bitcoin, which is pretty cool.
Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you wanted to support this channel, the best way to do so is by becoming a member. You get access to replays of my live streams, exclusive members only content. Also, you can support this show by checking out the sponsors, all linked below. Bitcoin Well, which offers non-custodial Bitcoin, which means you send them money, they send you Bitcoin directly with the lowest spread in Canada and the US. They have non-KYC options available. And if you use my link in the description, you'll actually get some free bonus Bitcoin. And of course, Stampseed, the best possible way, in my opinion, to store your generational wealth and your seed phrase, which is this small little titanium plate that is easy to conceal, fireproof, crush proof. You can throw anything at it, it'll weather it, and you can stamp your seed with their kit, and you can actually get 15% off of that kit by using my code BTC Not Crypto 15. Thanks again.